Welcome back. I'm glad you could join us yet again as we continue our exciting exploration of the modern day application of Galactic Shamanism. I'm founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Art School and your certified instructor, Gwilda Wiyaka. While shamanism is often seen as an earth-based, magical, mystical modality, there's also a galactic form firmly rooted in scientific principles. As we enter the Aquarian age, the ambient frequency of the planet is becoming more expansive, rendering the galactic shamanic form more available. This ancient shamanic form is actually a method through which the practitioner can manage matter at the quantum level. As such, it can aid us during evolutionary times. Galactic Shamanism, Art of the Ancients, Key to Tomorrow, is a series of leading-edge classes designed to aid and empower you throughout these times of transition. All of the classes in the Galactic Shamanism series employ the circular learning technique and therefore build upon each other. It's important to take them in order to get the greatest understanding of the material and achieve the complete skill set as you engage the ancient art of frequency mastery. As always, it's my hope that these classes support you on your personal path to wholeness and enlightenment as we once again become co-creators of reality. This is Galactic Shamanism, Class 5, Elementals and Fairy Folk, Earth Spirits as Shamanic Gateways. Every shamanic form has a representation of the spirits of nature, from the Native American earth spirits and thunder beings to the Celtic fairies and water sprites. Every aspect of the natural world is allegorically personified. When we apply comparative mythology to various legends and archetypes, we unearth some profound truths. Indications are that there was a time when rain dances really worked, volcanoes could be calmed, storms redirected, and waters parted. As we re-enter the Aquarian age, in the ambient frequency of the Earth once again becomes more expansive and matter more malleable. Through interaction with the allegorical representations of earth spirits, the shamanic practitioner now has the opportunity to navigate X-points, enter non-ordinary reality, control the weather, tell the future, change outcome, and perform healing on person, place, or thing. Problem being, we've not only forgotten how, but we've lost the awareness that it's even possible to do so. It's simply not in our reality. Thus, we never try. Like a frog put into a slowly heating pan, blissfully unaware of its peril, will fry to death when it could easily jump out. All solutions to the massive environmental problems we face are just a leap of faith away. Yet through our belief in them, we tenaciously hold to limitations that no longer exist. We can be standing in an orchard full of ripe fruit and die of starvation if our reality doesn't include trees. Our beliefs create the reality we're subject to. Thus, we find ourselves needlessly starving amongst plenty. As in the case of the frog in the frying pan, the ambient frequency is rising and rules are changing, whether we're aware of it or not. To survive, we must change also. Where can we find the guidance we need to navigate the shifting landscape? The earth is in tune with life itself and can show us the way. We just need to learn to speak her language. The translation point? The elementals, fairy folk, and earth spirits, of course. In Lesson 5, Elementals and Fairy Folk, Earth Spirits as Shamanic Gateways, we'll embrace our relationship with earth spirits to re-engage the magic healing power of earth connection. We'll learn to align with the power of the earth and all of her elements to restore balance to our lives and embrace future possibilities, rather than go down with the obsolete reality that no longer sustains us. So let's don the fairy dust, dance with the water sprites, and commune with the thunder beings, for they hold the key to tomorrow. In addition to the normal supplies for this class, you'll need the following items. Additional bowl of water, large enough to hold a stone. Said stone. Potter's clay. and an additional candle and candle holder. This list is in your student handout along with the links to the required books and CDs or MP3s. As you recall, we start all classes by setting basic sacred space using some of the principles we covered in lessons 1, 2, and 3. The purpose of setting space is to align ourselves and our location with the electromagnetic field of the Earth in order to establish balanced, expansive frequency environment. Again, all we do, including gathering information and performing ceremony, is enhanced by balanced environment that's aligned to and in cooperation with Earth and stellar energies. By including the elements in addition to our power animals, we further strengthen, refine, and balance the practice. Instructions for setting and activating the basic altar are in your student handout. Make sure to set the personalized altar you developed in Class 3, Sacred Space, and add calling in the animals for each direction to the process that you were given assigned in the assigned journeys by including them in your customized prayers. After aligning with the Earth's electromagnetic field through the setting of your altar, intend to align with the space I've set for this class. It's been made available across time and space to support you energetically as you embody the material. You can access the frequency of this lesson anytime you wish to repeat the material or support your process by simply intending to do so. I can't overemphasize the importance of surrounding yourself with sacred space for these studies, as shamanic information is expansive and only limited by our ability to take it in. As well, the common denominator reality will prevail if we do not have some provision for fielding it while contemplating more expansive information. By creating a balanced environment aligned with the Earth, stars, and the way life works, you've optimized your ability to absorb and embody more profound levels of reality. If you've not already set sacred space, please pause this class and do so. We'll take up as soon as you're ready. As we've pointed out in prior classes, our current concept of reality is extremely limited and monodimensional. We, in fact, live in a holographic reality generated by our allegorical interpretation of the frequencies bathing us at any given time. What we consider to be physical reality is merely a collection of symbols. We use these symbols to translate frequency into a form that's user-friendly to the linear mind. Once we recognize that what we call reality is actually a self-generated hologram, we become aware that not only can we access the past, present, and future there, but we have the power to change the hologram at any time. The problem is, at this point, only a select few understand this, most of whom use it to control for personal gain. Control the belief systems of the masses, and you control ordinary reality. For millennia, shamans have understood the holographic nature of ordinary reality. The shamanic perception is of the timeless, fluid, and malleable holographic nature of the human world. Through ceremony and ritual, shamans read the past, present, and future metaphorically represented in the hologram. There are also shamanic practices that can heal the imbalances of frequency between the hologram and the currents of life, thereby healing any situation and changing outcome. However, there are precious few authentic shaman left. By the nature of true shamanic practice, shamans process beyond the personal places where they are subject to the illusion, enabling them to be effective. This is not only a huge amount of work, but much of which can not only be unpleasant but very alienating, as a hologram is a translation point for human interaction. Needless to say, we don't all want to become shaman. It's a full-time job. But we do need to interface with true reality and the way life works to live balanced, abundant lives. So let's bridge the gap by rolling up our sleeves and learning fairy speak. As I just mentioned, we're living in a holographic reality comprised of allegories and symbols. The holographic reality is generated by our metaphorical interpretation of the frequencies bathing us at any given time. True reality exists between the symbols. One of the pathways to unified landscape and the interactive nature of true reality is found by working with the elements, the earth spirits. The ambient frequencies are ever changing, constantly in flux. The elementals change with the frequency fluctuations, thereby modulating frequency and maintaining the gateways between ordinary reality, the hologram, and true reality, the unified field, where all possibilities lie. Just as water changes its expression drastically according to the rising temperature, moving from solid to liquid to gas, all the elementals are constantly adapting to the ever-shifting ambient frequency of the natural world. To access the quantum level, regardless of the frequency expressed by the illusion or agreed-upon reality, we need to commune with the elementals. As gatekeepers, the elementals serve as a governor between the hologram in which we live and the natural world at large, including the quantum level of life, where all manifestation begins. So, how do we work with these gatekeepers? We need a translation point. This translation point is yet another hologram or symbol. Every earth spirit and elemental expresses as a frequency that's metaphorically represented in order to make sense to the linear mind. These allegories have been passed down for generations, appearing in myth and legend as fairy folk, sprites, little people, she, earth spirits, thunder beings, gods, goddesses, and so on. When we interface with the frequency of an elemental, they'll present in our imagination as an allegorical representation that aligns with our genetics, upbringing, and belief systems. While they may appear mythical and magical, they're also quite real. Everything expresses according to frequency, and that frequency is translated into symbols by the imagination. Therefore, the symbol of a winged sprite is no more or less real than that of a human. We're all metaphorical at some level. So, how do we convince the elementals to open the gates between ordinary and non-ordinary reality that we may pass through? Everything has an electromagnetic or toroidal field, and the elements are no exception. Through centering in heart and working with the metaphorical spirits of nature, we can access the X points created where our personal toroidal field crosses that of any element. Often, either the practitioner and or the situation carries an imbalance that prevents a total accurate alignment with the Earth's toroidal field. At this time in history, this imbalance is present in almost every situation. Coming out of a low-frequency time, we understandably carry restrictions that prevent us from moving and changing as rapidly as the frequency of the natural world. That's not to say we cannot use ceremony to align our toroidal fields with that of the Earth, but rather that that alignment can be refined through using the counterbalancing effects of the elements. The frequency of nature is also accelerating exponentially as we move into the more expansive Aquarian era. Trying to totally align with life at this point is rather like jumping a rapidly moving freight train. You're likely to lose an arm if you don't start by running next to the train, compensating for some of the discrepancy of speed between you and it before grabbing on. Just so, we can use the elements as governors between our frequency and that of life to bring us up to speed and into better balance. Remember, imbalance produces drag, and drag wears things out. Discerning which element is a perfect governor for you in the moment requires that you begin by developing a relationship with your elemental guides. While all shamanic traditions have some form of journeying between the elements, the betwixt and between journey style is a more Celtic form. This journey is accomplished in middle world by focusing on the space between air and fire. It can also be accessed by focusing on the space between earth and water, or light and shadow, and so on. That's why fountains and candles are used in meditation. It's also why fires are traditionally used in indigenous ceremony and water in baptism. Most of us are somewhat familiar with Chinese medicine. In this Eastern form, diagnosis is done according to what element is out of balance. Illness is treated by administering an herb that produces the opposite element to restore balance and, therefore, health. The same is true of discerning which element to be used when crossing X points. X points, by their very nature, are balanced and neutral or non-polarized. This is part of the reason one must be in balance, neutral, loving heart space to navigate them. Balance is not static, but rather a moving target as everything is shifting rapidly from moment to moment. The elementals serve as a counterbalance to imbalanced frequency, as they create X points where their electromagnetic fields cross ours. They serve as an antidote to any imbalance we may be carrying to grant us passage through the X points between worlds. The following are 2 exercises designed to familiarize yourself with the elements and accessing the betwixt and between. Do remember to set up sacred space before performing any shamanic journey. For this exercise, you'll need the earthen bowl of water and stone. Sage the bowl, water, and stone. Place the stone in the bowl of water so part is submerged and part above the surface. Put the bowl on the floor and sit down in front of it. Take several deep breaths, allowing yourself to settle and center. This will be a guided journey, so put me on hold until you get set up as I have just instructed. As the drumming begins, keep your eyes soft focus. Look into the bowl of water holding the rock and draw your attention to the rock. Begin by introducing yourself to the stone. Tell it you're here to become familiar with the element of earth and ask permission to work with it. When you feel its acceptance, give it gratitude. Take time to really appreciate the stone and its willingness to share its experience with you. Rock moves at a much slower pace than human, so allow your awareness to slowly slink into stone. Take plenty of time. Stone is ancient, enduring, and has all the time in the world. Ask it to show you what it's like to be of the element earth. Imagine your body taking on the attributes of stone. Feel yourself further slowing down to the frequency of rock. Note your thoughts slowing also until your mind is a quiet observer in the background. Stay in this place of oneness with the rock for a time, observing how your bones relate to it. Once you feel you've embodied stone, ask what it has to teach you about balance. Ask it for an archetypal sign to represent its spirit to you. Once the teaching has been delivered, move your vision and awareness to where the water touches the rock. What does the water feel like from the rock's perspective? Thank the stone and draw your awareness back into yourself. Now draw your attention to the water. Introduce yourself to the water and tell it you're here to become familiar with the element of water. Ask permission to work with it. When you feel its acceptance, give it your gratitude. Take time to really appreciate the water and its willingness to share its experience with you. Water is much more fluid than human, so soften your demeanor. Relax. Allow your awareness to slowly flow into it. Take plenty of time, feeling your body becoming more fluid as it merges with water. Ask it to show you what it's like to be of the water element. Imagine your body taking on the attributes of the water. Feel yourself further softening into the ebb and flow of water. Note your thoughts drifting also, until your mind is a quiet observer in the background. Imagine yourself suspended in water and observe how your body relates to it. Stay in this place of oneness for a time. Once you feel you've embodied water, ask it what it has to teach you about balance. Ask it for an archetypal sign to represent its spirit to you. Once the teaching has been delivered, move your awareness to where the rock touches the water. What does the rock feel like from the water's perspective? What's the interaction between the two? Thank the water and draw your awareness back into yourself. Now focus your vision on the space between the water and the stone, where the stone is wet and the water tension forming around it. Concentrate on neither the stone nor the water, but rather the space in between. You may find your awareness slipping to either the stone or the water. Gently draw your attention back to the space betwixt and between the two. What's going on there? Can you feel the alchemy between the two elements? How do you relate to this space that's no space at all? As your attention again wanders from the space to either rock or water, gently pull it back like a wayward child. Feel the currents of the betwixt and between, the power flowing here. Allow it to flow through you. Where do you register it in your body? Once you feel you've embodied the betwixt and between, ask what it has to teach you about balance. Ask it for an archetypal sign to represent the spirit between rock and water to you. Once the teaching has been delivered, thank the betwixt and between, and draw your awareness back into yourself. Take time to fully release the betwixt and between frequency and re-enter your personal one. Close your eyes and seek deeply into yourself. How have you changed? How have you changed? As soon as you feel grounded and present, journal your entire experience in as much detail as you can. Be sure to accurately represent the lessons and archetypes you were given. This is a healing journey, and your frequency will have adjusted as a result of your interaction with the elements of earth, water, and the power flowing between them. Take time to journal daily as you notice further shifts. Repeating this journey will reap further rewards as the balance offered deepens, as do the lessons. On subsequent journeys, ask, how does an imbalance of the element earth show up for you personally? What is it like to need more earth, and how can you make that correction? What is it like to need less earth, and how can you make that correction? How does the element earth empower you? How does an imbalance of the element water show up for you personally? What is it like to need more water, and how to make that correction? What's it like to need less water, and how to correct that? How does the element water empower you? These follow-up journey questions are included in your student handout and can be performed by using your headset and a journey drumming recording, track 4, on either Betwixt and Between or on Wings of Spirit. Be sure to journal the journeys and turn them in with your test of completion. For this exercise, you'll need the candle, candle holder, and a lighter. Sage the candle and the candle holder. Put the candle in its holder on the floor and sit down in front of it. Light the candle. Then take several deep breaths, allowing yourself to settle and center. This will be another guided journey, so put me on hold until you get set up as I have just instructed. As the drumming starts, keep your eyes soft focused, look into the lit candle, draw your attention to the flame. Begin by introducing yourself to the candle flame. Tell it you're here to become familiar with the element of fire and ask its permission to work with it. When you feel its acceptance, give it gratitude. Take time to really appreciate the flame and its willingness to share its experience with you. Fire moves at a much quicker pace than human, so allow your awareness to speed up until you can keep up with the flame. When you feel a frequency match, allow your awareness to merge with the flame. You need not fear being burned, as you are the same frequency as flame and working in spirit. Ask it to show you what it's like to be of the element fire. Imagine your body taking on the attributes of the dancing flame. Feel yourself further speeding up to the frequency of fire. Note your thoughts coming to rest as they cannot keep up with the pace of the flame. Allow your mind to become a quiet observer in the background. Stay in this place of oneness with the flame for a time, observing how your energy relates to it. Once you feel you've embodied the fire, ask it what it has to teach you about balance. Ask it for an archetypal sign to represent it to you in spirit. Once the teaching has been delivered, move your awareness to where the fire touches the air around it. What does the air feel like from the fire's perspective? Thank the fire and draw your awareness back into yourself. Now, draw your attention to the air around the flame. Introduce yourself to the air and tell it you're here to become familiar with the element of air. Ask permission to work with it. When you feel its acceptance, give it your gratitude. Take time to really appreciate the air and its willingness to share its experience with you. Bring your attention to your breath. Allow the air to flow in and out, unimpeded. Become aware of the air sinking deeper into your bloodstream and nourishing your body. show you what it's like to be of the element air. Imagine your body taking on the attributes of air. Feel yourself further becoming light and ethereal like the air. Note your thoughts floating as if on the breeze until your mind is a quiet observer in the background. Imagine yourself floating in air and observe how your body relates to it. Stay in this place of oneness for a time. Once you feel you've embodied air, ask what it has to teach you about balance. Ask it for an archetypal sign to represent its spirit to you. Once the teaching has been delivered, move your awareness to where the flame joins the air. What does it feel like from the air's perspective? What is the interaction between the two? Thank the air and draw your awareness back into yourself. Now focus your vision on the space between the fire and the air, where they dance together. Concentrate on neither the flame nor the air, but rather the space in between. You may find your awareness slipping to either the fire or the air. Gently draw your attention back to the space betwixt and between the two. What's going on there? Can you feel the alchemy between the two elements? How do you relate to this space that's no space at all? As your attention again wanders from the space to either flame or air, gently pull it back like a wayward child. Feel the currents of the betwixt and between, the power flowing here. Allow it to flow through you. Where do you register it in your body? Once you feel you've embodied the betwixt and between, ask what it has to teach you about balance. Ask it for an archetypal sign to represent the spirit between fire and air to you. Once the teaching has been delivered, thank the betwixt and between and draw your awareness back into yourself. Take time to fully release the betwixt and between frequency and re-enter your personal one. Close your eyes and sink deeply into yourself. What is different? What is new? As soon as you feel you've returned to yourself, journal your entire experience in detail. Be sure to be precise in your representation of the lessons and archetypes you were given. This too is a healing journey, and your frequency will have adjusted as a result of your interaction with the elements of fire, air, and the power flowing between them. Take time to journal daily as you notice further shifts. Repeating this journey will offer further healing and awareness due to the deepening of the lessons and the balance therein. On subsequent journeys, you can ask, how does an imbalance of the element fire show up for you personally? What's it like to need more fire, and how can you make the correction? What's it like to need less fire, and how to correct that? How does the element fire empower you? How does an imbalance in the element of air show up for you personally? What is it like to need more air, and how can you make the correction? What is it like to need less air, and how do you correct that? How does the element air empower you? These follow-up journey questions are included in your student handout and can be performed by using your headset and Journey Drumming Recording Track 4 on either Betwixt and Between or on Wings of Spirit. Again, turn in your journal of these journeys with your test of completion. While these exercises can be very profound, healing, and informative when performed indoors surrounded by your altar and the sacred space it provides, there just isn't anything like the real thing. Not everyone has a ready access to the natural world. Many of us live in cities and apartments. Working with the elements in nature is so powerful and profound that it's well worth a field trip to the lake, beach, woods, or even a city park. Take your journal, pen, headset, and drumming recording along and sit down by a stream or, where allowed, build a campfire. Even if you sit in a busy city park, you'll look like just another person listening to music while enjoying nature. Journal your intention and bottom line and any questions you'd like to address regarding your relationship to each element. Find a body of water or build a campfire and do the exercises as we've done here. Journal your experience and how different it was from the first ones we did together. Now that you've received an archetypical representation of each of the elements, it's time to get to know each other. You can start out by researching the image you were given to see if it's specific to you or if it has cultural significance. Learning all you can about the representations you received can really deepen your understanding of your relationship to each elemental. Note the power carried by each allegory and how it might relate to your personal power or the need for more of a particular expression in your life. Further deepening a relationship with your personal fairy folk is much like working with power animals with two major exceptions. 1. Fairy folk are shy and very sensitive to imbalance. 2. Fairy folk, being earth spirits, prefer working in middle world. Their domain is the natural world, but outside of time and space. Just like with your power animals, you must be grateful for and love your fairies in order to work well with them and together navigate the X points to non-ordinary reality. I've mentioned that the elementals serve as a governor, helping you gain and maintain the balance needed to do journey work as well as maintain health. The wonderful thing about fairy folk is you don't have to know your imbalances and try to figure out which element to use to counterbalance it. To find balance and pass through the gates between worlds, simply get to know your elementals, their corresponding archetypes, and develop a loving relationship with them. When it's time to journey, ask who will accompany you. Whoever shows up will be the one you need at that time to correct any frequency imbalance that would prevent you from accessing and passing through X points. Now let's try out our fairy wings and perform a betwixt and between journey to the land of the Fae. For this exercise, you'll need track 4, the 15-minute journey, on either Betwixt and Between or on Wings of Spirit on your CD or MP3 player and your headset. You'll need a jumping off spot that's the betwixt and between of either earth and water or fire and air. It can be a beach or stream you're familiar with or a campfire you once sat around. As always, when performing Journey, journal your intent and bottom line, set up sacred space, put on your headset to track 4, and assume the position. For this journey, your intent or bottom line might be something like, given I want to live, enjoy abundance, longevity, and good health, I'd like to tour the land of the Fae. Call your lower world power animal to you and tell it you wish to visit the land of the Fae. This will be a middle world journey, so never travel without your power animal or talk to strangers on your way. Ask your power animal to take you as the crow flies to your jumping off spot. When you arrive, introduce yourself and ask its permission to use it to access the land of the Fae. Once permission is granted, call out for the elemental that would like to help you with this particular journey. When it or they show up, give gratitude and express your deep affection and appreciation for them and their willingness to help you. Take note of who shows up. As mentioned before, it will have significance as to what counterbalancing agent you need to restore your personal balance at this time. Now focus on the betwixt and between of the elements in your jumping off spot. When you feel you're aligned with betwixt and between energy, ask your elemental archetype to help you and your power animal to enter the land of the Fae. Just as in the lower world journey to a landscape will open up. If they aren't too shy, you might see other fairy folk when you get there. If you don't see them, not to worry. They'll probably show themselves on subsequent journeys. Ask what this place has to teach you about balance. Ask it how you will work together. Then ask your elemental to give you a tour of the land of the Fae and take note of all you see. You may run across pets or family members who've crossed. You're in the land of the Fae, so feel free to talk to them if you like, but take a later journey to lower world to ask how accurate the information you receive may be before acting upon it. Do not accept anything to eat or drink while you're there. I'll explain this when we discuss the she. When you hear the callback beat, inform your elemental it's time for you to return to middle world. Journey back exactly as you came with your elemental and power animal to your jumping off spot. Thank your elemental. Journey back through middle world to your physical body with your power animal. Now, assume the position and perform the journey as I've outlined it. Then thank your power animal and see your spirit lie back down into your body. Sit up and journal your experience. Elementals like to work in middle world, as that's where they live and rule. Their favorite access point to the balance required for their work is the natural world, as they use nature to help you rebalance your physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual body. In addition to the elements, every plant also has spirit that carries healing properties, which is the basis behind Bach flower remedies, aromatherapy, and for that matter is the source of allopathic drugs. But that's another story altogether. One of the most healing things we can do is expose ourselves to nature and through it the spirits of the plants and the elements. Mind you, I'm not talking about strapping on your motocross gear and tearing up the turf, but rather as reverently as we can, entering the sanctuary provided by nature and becoming one with it. Shaman can and often do work with the elements in upper or lower world. It's also possible to use middle world journey to a volcano or to the bottom of the ocean for a healing, an activity that's ill-advised in physical reality. I often use journey work to rebalance with nature after a difficult session with a client when I haven't the time to go out of doors. A quick rundown of this very useful form is: Set up sacred space, put on your drumming CD, assume the position, and call your power animal to you. Tell it you need to rebalance and ask it to take it to your jumping off spot to the land of the Fae. Call your elementals to join you and ask them to take you to a middle world journey to the four elements to rebalance you. Then just go where they lead. You might find yourself in a quaking bog, an erupting volcano, the bottom of the ocean, or flying in a whirlwind. Very often you'll visit a representation of all four elements on your journey. When you're done, return to the entrance of the land of the Fae, thank your elemental for the healing, and with your power animal, return to your body. Thank your power animal. Lie back down into your body. Take your time lying still and absorbing the healing before sitting up and journaling your experience. Our emotions are in one big modern mess. From childhood, we're taught to stuff our emotions rather than process them. For instance, few of us have ever been taught how to responsibly move anger. Instead, we're so emotionally backed up, we tend to dump toxic rage upon the hapless soul unfortunate enough to put the proverbial straw on our camel's back. We so avoid our sorrow that we can no longer access our joy. Joy and sorrow are interrelated, a sine wave, requiring balance between the two expressions to maintain movement. Life, by its very nature, is in constant motion and process. Shutting down any natural process has negative ramifications, limiting our mobility and therefore our life. Rather than having responsible ways of processing emotions in the moment, we stuff them until we either flatline or become volatile. The answer we are offered for such issues is drugs and more drugs. Because we've become so emotionally unprocessed, it's difficult to discern what deserves our zeal. Few of us realize that much of what we may be feeling in the moment is actually backed up, unexpressed emotion from our past. It's very difficult to be in the now when we carry around baggage from the past that's constantly being triggered by present events. The rapid acceleration of our times, there's no room for extra baggage or drag. Remember, drag wears things out, and that would be us on all levels. As we move through these times of rapid acceleration, it's important to recognize the extreme emotion, particularly above and beyond what the situation warrants, is not about the people and situations around us. It's really all about us and our unprocessed baggage. This is an inside job. Emotions are energy, never created nor destroyed, and if they're not moved, they need to take up residence somewhere. Thus the saying, venting your spleen. Anger often takes up residence in the liver or spleen, while fear often resides in the kidneys. Love, unexpressed or not returned, tends to reside in the heart. Grief sets up camp in the lungs. These unwanted guests create restrictions in the organs which impinge our toroidal fields, in turn limiting our mobility and compromising our longevity and quality of life. When our toroidal fields are not impinged, they're virtually self-generating power sources that naturally result in longevity. As we're being challenged with increased frequencies of the evolving era, the stuffed emotions tend to rattle loose. Road rage is an illness particular to our times. Any emotion we judge against and resist persists. The responsible management of our emotions can be achieved by moving them through one of the elements to transmute them rather than directing them at anyone. The following are several simple rituals that can engage the elements to help you responsibly manage your emotions without stuffing them and causing yourself damage or dumping them and harming others. The safe movement of emotion can be facilitated by the element of water. Stand in a stream facing downstream. Ask the water to transmute your words and feelings to do no harm. Then tell the river your woes. If you're not close to a moving body of water, a shower works for this as well. For those dwelling in a windy area, go out to a windy private hillside. Address the wind and ask it to transmute your emotions to do no harm. Then send your words on the wind to spirit rather than to the people involved in your life. One of my personal favorites, using the element earth, can be done anywhere. Purchase some natural clay from a pottery store. This was one of the items included in the supply list for this class. Knead it, and as you do, speak to it, passing all your angst through your hands into the clay. When you're done, take it outside and bury it, asking the earth to transmit your feelings to do no harm. If you have a real fireplace or a fire pit, build a fire in it. If not, go to a remote campground and build one. In a pinch, a candle will do. When you get the fire raging, ask it to take the words you have to say and transmute them to do no harm. Proceed to tell the fire, yelling and cursing if necessary, how angry you are and at whom and why. You can express grief or deep discouragement as well as rage. Any emotion you need to move can be handled in this way. Do not try to be fair or reasonable. The fire will take care of that for you. It also works well to write a letter expressing the backed up emotions and then burn it. These suggestions may seem trite until you consider the power of our conscious intent combined with ceremony. By using the transmutative properties of the elements combined with the power of our intent, we can move our backed up emotions consciously and harmlessly, thereby freeing ourselves of restrictions. Try it. You'll like it. The Sidhe are a traditional Celtic archetype that have been around so long, no one knows where they originated. While all the Sidhe are fairy folk, all fairies are not Sidhe. The Sidhe are considered to be the kings and queens of the fairy and differ from the garden variety in several ways. For one, and this is a vital point, they have major agenda. Power animals and normal fairy don't carry agenda and are willing to help us anytime we ask. They have our best interest at heart, and if they're not the best for the job we require, they'll step back and let another take their place in order for our intent to be met. For instance, when we call for the element that will help us on our journey work, the fairy that's the best choice to balance and support us will show up as a guide. Even though they've been known to use trickery to get us there, they'll always act according to our intent and bottom line. The Sidhe, on the other hand, are not really all that concerned with us or our well-being beyond how we can be used to meet their agenda, maintaining the balance of the earth. And make no mistake, they will use us any way they can and see fit, whether it matches our intention and bottom line or not. Sidhe often express themselves as floods, earthquakes, forest fires, hurricanes, erupting volcanoes, and so on. While they're not the flood, earthquake, or forest fire, they show up in locations of extreme earth imbalance and serve as energetic corrections. The outward signs of their work are the aforementioned natural disasters. Basically, the Sidhe are a law of nature personified. Every action has an equal but opposite reaction. They can also be found raising havoc in the affairs of humans, should the behavior of the humans in question threaten the earth balance they so jealously guard. The Sidhe have a well-earned reputation that follows them, and many have cause to fear them. If your intent is to best serve all concerned rather than being self-serving, and the earth is included in that equation, you have less to fear from them than most. However, that very intent may prompt them to call you into service, so be ready to put your money where your mouth is. Legend tells us they may offer you food or drink, such as meat or bread, in the land of the Fae. As legend has it, if you ingest the offering, you'll be enchanted into doing their bidding. In the course of my shamanic studies, I've learned over and over there's some truth behind every commonly held legend. I can't tell you exactly the meaning or ramifications of accepting food or drink from the Sidhe, but to a one, all my Celtic teachers have taught this. Discretion being the greater part of valor, I've always followed their advice. Just thought I'd pass it on for what it's worth. As kings and queens of the Faery, the She manage all of the elements to restore Earth balance. While I'm totally in agreement with their purpose and mission, I try to live my life in balance and intend to best serve all concerned and give them wide berth. After all, who knows what goes on in one's unconscious that may offend them? Another tried and true way to embody the elements is to dance them, much like we danced our power animals in Galactic Shamanism Lesson 4, Power Animals. For this exercise, you can use Heartbeat of the Mother drumming for the shamanic dance by Starfire. You can purchase the MP3 on our website, www.findyourpathhome.com/store. Set up and activate your altar or medicine wheel in the center of the space you'll be using for your dance. Include representations of the 4 elements, such as your lit candle and bowl of water. You'll use your rattle, or if you own a handheld hoop drum and are comfortable playing it, feel free to use it instead. Sage the space yourself, all the participants' drums and rattles. Stand next to your altar preparing to dance clockwise around it. Start the music. One at a time and each in turn, water, air, earth, and fire, call your allegorical representations of the elements to you and invite them to dance through you. Close your eyes and envision your body becoming like the element as you did in the Betwixt and Between journey. Start to move your body like you would imagine the element moves as you shake your rattle to the beat and dance clockwise around the altar. Make it as realistic as you're able, as this facilitates embodiment of the element's frequency. At some point, you may discover you're moving automatically. This is when your element is dancing you. When it feels complete, move to the next element. Continue until you've completed all 4 elements, replaying the drumming as you feel necessary. Once the dance feels complete, lie down on the floor or ground, if outside, next to your altar, and feel the power of the elements cruising through your body. Slowly return to yourself, thank and release your elements, and close the altar with the appropriate prayers of gratitude. What better combination is there than children and fairy folk? Fairy are always exposing themselves to children in order to support them during their tender years. And what do adults do? The normal response is, "That's only your imagination, honey. There's no such thing as fairy." What a crippling desecration. On the other hand, children need to live in the world of people that don't understand the holographic nature of the reality or the allegorical expression of the elements. In my experience, honesty is always the best policy with children. It's surprising how much of what we have shared today children are more than capable of understanding. In age-specific language, explain to your child what the fairy folk really are and how they show up in our imagination to work with us. Take your children into nature and do the Betwixt and Between exercise with them. Encourage them to describe their elementals to you. Have them tell you stories about their fairies. Help them draw a picture of each one to put up in their room. Share stories of your elementals and how they've helped you. Then dance the dance of the elements with them. They'll grow up understanding the magic and healing of the natural world. You will have empowered them with the balance of nature for the rest of their lives. For our next class, Galactic Shamanism Lesson 6, we'll not repeat the entire list of supplies. For the most part, you'll use the same articles for every class. We'll include a supply list in your student handout for each class. In addition, I'll mention any changes or additions at the beginning of the class presentation. I look forward to sitting in circle with you again as our shamanic adventures continue. Should you find you need additional support on your personal path to wholeness, consider shamanic healing. Path Home offers long-distance shamanic healing sessions performed by myself, Gwilda Wiyaka, or one of the Path Home Shamanic Art School certified practitioners worldwide via Skype or phone. Contact us for an appointment at touchin@findyourpathhome.com. Craving more teachings? The Stairway to Heaven, created and hosted by yours truly, Gwilda Wiyaka, is an ongoing series of TV vignettes designed to bring updates and insights into the ever-changing elevated frequency currents now bathing the planet and their effect on us all, the source of vital information for the evolving human being. These teachings are available in video or downloadable audio format with our compliments at www.stairwaytoheavenmedia.com. Another wonderful provision for the evolving human being is Mission Evolution Radio Show. As we leave an age of polarization and enter one supporting unity and enlightenment, we're granted a rare opportunity to evolve. This evolution of consciousness requires a different approach. By bringing together seemingly divergent viewpoints and applying them to leading-edge subject matter, we can uncover a more expansive and evolutionary truth. Mission Evolution Radio Show, hosted by yours truly, Gwilda Wiyaka, is a radio program dedicated to bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. Mission Evolution Radio TV is aired daily and internationally on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, and X-Zone TV, www.xzonetvchannel.com. Past innovative episodes can be found on www.missionevolution.org. If you've enjoyed this class, explore our ever-growing collection of classes designed to support spiritual evolution and personal empowerment during changing times. Stay tuned to findyourpathhome.com for our latest offerings. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this, the 5th lesson in Galactic Shamanism series, and that it brings you and your family wisdom and comfort on your sacred path to wholeness. Until we meet again, my friends, may you and those you love dance softly on the earth in the company of fairies.